The magnificent rooster crowed from atop the fence post, its throat vibrating with desperation as it watched the woman who used to be its wife walk past without a second glance. Just 3 days ago, those same hands had caressed his face. Now they scattered feed on the ground like he was any other bird in the compound. 2 weeks before Christmas, the Harmattan wind carried dust through Umura village, making everything look hazy and dreamlike. The market square buzzed with activity as traders displayed their goods for the holiday season. Women balanced baskets of tomatoes on their heads, children chased each other between the stalls. And right in the centre of it all stood Emeka, the wealthiest trader in 3 villages, holding court like a king. "You see this wrapper?" Emeka held up a Dutch wax print, the fabric catching the afternoon sun. "I bought 20 of these for my new wife." 20! Other men can barely afford one for Christmas. The men gathered around him shifted their feet. Some nodded politely, others looked away. "And this Christmas, eh?" Emeka continued, his voice growing louder. "I will host a feast that will make the whole village remember my name. Goats, chicken, rice, everything." Mama Ngozi, who sold vegetables nearby, muttered to her neighbour, "The man who shouts loudest about his pot usually has the smallest soup inside." But Emeka didn't hear her, or if he did, he didn't care. He was too busy counting the admiring glances from younger traders, too absorbed in the sound of his own voice. This was how he spent every day since marrying Ada 3 months ago. While other men prepared their farms for the next season or mended their compounds, Emeka paraded through the market, talking about his wealth, his beautiful young wife, and his importance to the village. His 3 children from his late wife, Obi, Chioma, and Enkim, barely saw him anymore. At home, Ada swept the compound for the 3rd time that day. She was 25, graceful as a palm tree, with eyes that held more wisdom than her years suggested. When her mother had arranged the marriage to Emeka, everyone said she was lucky. He was 50 years old but strong, rich but generous, a catch for any woman. What they didn't mention was the pride, the endless, exhausting pride. "Mama Ada," Chioma, Emeka's eldest daughter, called from the kitchen. "The soup is burning." Ada dropped the broom and rushed inside. Smoke filled the small kitchen as she pulled the pot from the fire. The egusi soup had stuck to the bottom, ruined. "I'm sorry," Ada whispered, her eyes stinging from smoke and frustration. "I'll make more." "It's not your fault." Chioma was 19, with her late mother's gentle face. You cannot cook and clean and fetch water and still go to market, all while Papa sits there talking about how great he is. Ada touched the girl's shoulder. "Don't speak about your father that way." "But it's true." Obi entered the kitchen, his 14-year-old face twisted with anger. "He does nothing. Since you married him, he's become worse. At least before, he would come home sometimes. Now he only comes back to sleep and eat." The youngest, Nkem, appeared in the doorway. At 12, she still had the honesty of childhood. "Papa used to tell us stories. Now he only tells stories about himself." Ada wanted to defend her husband, but the words wouldn't come. What could she say? That she had married a man who loved his reflection more than his family? That she lay awake at night wondering if she had made a terrible mistake? If you're enjoying this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more African folk tales that teach, entertain, and inspire. That evening, Emeka finally came home as the sun painted the sky orange and red. He walked into the compound like a warrior returning from battle, his chest puffed out, his wrapper gleaming with expensive embroidery. "Ada, where is my wife?" He sat on his favourite stool under the Udala tree. "Bring me water to wash my feet. Today was a very important day. I settled a dispute between 2 traders. They said, 'Emeka, only you can help us.' You see, even the village elders recognize my wisdom." Ada brought the water, kneeling as she washed his feet. Her hands moved mechanically, her mind far away. "Why do you look like someone who swallowed bitter leaf?" Emeka pulled his foot away. "You should be happy. Do you know how many women wish they were in your position?" "I am happy," Ada said quietly. "Just tired." "Tired? From what?" "You stay home all day while I work in the market, building my reputation, making connections that will benefit this family." He stood up, water dripping from his feet onto the red earth. "You young girls of nowadays don't appreciate what you have. My first wife, God rest her soul, she knew the value of a husband like me." Chioma, serving dinner nearby, dropped a plate. The crash silenced the compound. "You will not speak about our mother like that." Her voice shook with fury. "Mama worked herself to death trying to please you, trying to match your pride with her own worthiness. And now you compare her to Ada, who does the same thing." Emeka's face darkened. "You dare raise your voice to me? You don't see us anymore." Obi stepped forward, standing beside his sister. "We are preparing for Christmas alone. The compound needs repairs. Nkem needs new shoes. But where are you? In the market, bragging. Ungrateful children." Emeka's voice boomed across the compound. "I feed you, I clothe you, and this is the respect I get?" Ada stood between them, her hands raised. "Please, everyone, let us eat in peace. It's almost Christmas. We should be united." But Emeka pushed past her, storming toward the market. "I will eat in the square where people appreciate me." The compound fell silent except for Nenkem's quiet crying. The next day was Christmas Eve. The market exploded with last-minute preparations. Women haggled over the price of rice. Men argued about the best goats for slaughter. Children ran wild with excitement, their pockets jingling with small coins meant for Christmas treats. Emeka arrived at noon, dressed in his finest wrapper and a new shirt that cost more than most families spent on food in a month. He had decided to buy Ada a gift, not because he felt sorry for last night, but because he wanted everyone to see how generous he was. "Papa!" Obi found him first. "We need money for palm wine for Christmas dinner. And Chioma says we need more soup ingredients." "Where is Ada? She should be handling these things." Emeka waved his hand dismissively. "I have important matters to discuss with the village chairman." "But Papa, did I stutter? Tell your stepmother to use her own money. I already give her enough." Obi's face hardened. He turned away without another word. Emeka spent the morning moving from one group of men to another, inserting himself into every conversation. When traders discussed their Christmas preparations, he boasted about his plans for a feast. When farmers talked about the coming planting season, he lectured them about business strategies. When elders discussed village matters, he offered unsolicited advice. "The problem with this village," Emeka announced to a group of uninterested listeners, "is that people don't appreciate excellence. Look at me. I started with nothing. Now I am the most successful trader here. If everyone followed my example, Umiura would be the richest village in the whole local government." One of the older traders, Mazio Koro, finally spoke. "Emeka, even the tallest tree must bow to the wind. Pride comes before the fall." "Pride?" Emeka laughed. "It's not pride to state the truth. I worked hard for everything I have. My new wife is proof of my success. Ada is beautiful, young, respectful. Other men my age have wives who look like grandmothers. But me, I married fresh beauty." This was when Ada walked into the market, basket on her head, Nkem holding her hand. She had come to buy last-minute ingredients for Christmas dinner, using the small savings she had hidden away. "Ah, speak of the angel," Emeka's voice rang out. "Come, my wife, come and greet everyone." Ada approached slowly, sensing something wrong in his tone. The market seemed to hold its breath. "Tell them," Emeka continued, his voice carrying across the square. "Tell them how lucky you are to have married me. Tell them how other women envy you." Ada's face burned with shame. Around them, people stopped their trading to watch. Some looked sympathetic. Others seemed entertained by the drama. "Emeka, please," Ada said quietly. "Let us go home. I need to prepare for tomorrow." "Home? Why? Are you ashamed of your husband?" He grabbed her hand, pulling her closer to the crowd. "You see this woman? I took her from poverty, gave her status, wealth, security, and yet she walks around with a face like someone attending a funeral." "That's not true," Ada whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. "It is true. You don't appreciate what you have." Emeka's voice grew harder. "Do you know what I could have married? The daughter of the village chairman, the niece of the local government chairman. But I chose you, a girl with nothing, and this is the gratitude I receive?" Chioma, who had followed them to the market, ran forward. "Papa, stop! You're embarrassing everyone." "Embarrassing?" Emeka laughed, but there was an edge to it now. I am stating facts. I could be anything, even a chicken, and still be more valuable than other men. That's how blessed I am. That's how special I am." The market had gone completely quiet. Even the children had stopped playing. And in that silence, an old woman emerged from behind a palm wine stall. Nobody knew her name. She had appeared in the village a week ago, selling palm wine so sweet that people bought it by the calabash. Her face was weathered like ancient leather, her eyes clouded with age, but when she moved, there was something ageless about her grace. "You say even as a chicken you would be valuable?" The old woman's voice was surprisingly strong. Emeka turned, startled. "Who are you?" "Someone who listens." She approached Ada, not Emeka. "Young wife, you have patience like the earth itself. Your husband wishes to prove his worth. Perhaps we should let him." She handed Ada a small clay pot, sealed with red clay and marked with symbols that seemed to shift in the light. "When you reach home, put this in your room. If it should break, your husband will get his wish. He will see exactly how valuable he is." "Old woman, nobody asked for your interference." Emeka reached for the pot, but the woman had already disappeared back into the crowd, moving impossibly fast for someone so ancient. "Are you still watching? Comment below which character you think is right. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories." Ada held the pot carefully as they walked home in silence. Emeka stormed ahead, muttering about disrespectful old women and ungrateful wives. The children followed at a distance, their Christmas excitement completely drained. When they reached the compound, Emeka went straight to his room, slamming the door. Ada placed the pot on a small table in the corner, next to her clothes box. She stared at it for a long moment, wondering what the old woman had meant. "Mama Ada," Chioma whispered from the doorway. "What is that pot?" "I don't know, but something tells me we should leave it alone." But fate, or perhaps something stronger than fate, had other plans. That night, as the village prepared for Christmas morning prayers, Emeka emerged from his room in a foul mood. The market humiliation had bruised his pride, and he wanted to fight. "Why is dinner not ready?" he shouted. "It's Christmas Eve and there's no food." "The children and I prepared it hours ago," Ada said, stirring the pot of jollof rice. "You were sleeping." "Sleeping? I was resting from the stress of dealing with ungrateful people all day." He stomped around the compound, looking for something to complain about. "And why is my room so dusty? What do you do all day?" "Papa, please." Obi stepped forward. "Mama Ada works very hard. She cooked, cleaned, went to market. You will not tell me how to speak in my own house." Emeka advanced on his son. "You children have become too bold. It started when I married this woman. She has turned you against me." "No one has turned us against you," Chioma said, her voice steady. "You have done that yourself, with your pride, your endless boasting, your neglect." "Neglect?" Emeka's laugh was bitter. "I provide everything. What more do you want?" "We want a father." Nkem's small voice cut through the argument like a knife. "We want someone who sees us, who talks to us, who doesn't make Mama Ada cry every day." Ada's hand flew to her mouth, shock written across her face. "I don't make anyone cry," Emeka said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. "Yes, you do," Nkem continued, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I hear her at night. I hear her asking God what she did wrong. Why you married her if you only wanted someone to boast about." The compound fell silent. Even the crickets seemed to hold their breath. Emeka's face twisted with emotion, shame, anger, confusion. Unable to face any of it, he turned on Ada. "This is your fault. You have poisoned my children against me. You sit here playing the victim, making everyone think I am the bad one." "I have never said a word against you," Ada said, her voice breaking. "Not one word." "Lies!" Emeka grabbed her arm. "You want to make me look bad. You want everyone to think you're so perfect, so patient. Well, let me tell you something. Let her go." Chioma pushed between them, and in the chaos, someone stumbled backward. There was a crash from Ada's room, the sound of clay shattering. The pot had fallen. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Emeka's hand, still gripping Ada's arm, began to change. The fingers shortened, fused. His skin rippled, sprouted feathers. His mouth elongated into a beak, his shout of anger becoming a strangled crow. Ada screamed and jumped back. The children stood frozen in horror as their father's body shrank, twisted, reformed. His expensive wrapper pooled on the ground, empty. And standing in the middle of it all, A magnificent rooster with red and gold feathers looked around with very human eyes. "Papa?" Nkem whispered. The rooster that was Emeka opened his beak, but only a crow came out. Ada's legs gave way. She sat down hard, staring at the impossible sight before her. "What have I done? What have I done?" The rooster Emeka flapped his wings frantically, running in circles, trying to speak, trying to make them understand. But he was fully a bird now. The proud trader had gotten his wish. He would see exactly how valuable he was. The old woman appeared in the doorway bigger, though no one had heard her arrive. In the dim lamplight she seemed taller, more substantial. Her clouded eyes gleamed with an ancient knowledge. "Mama, please." Ada fell to her knees. "Change him back. I didn't mean for the pot to break. I didn't want this." "Want has nothing to do with it," the old woman said. Her voice resonated differently now, like stones rolling in a river. "Your husband wished to prove his worth. Allah, the Earth Mother, has granted him that chance." Chioma gasped. "Allah, the goddess? I walk among my people when I choose." The old woman, the goddess, moved closer to the frantic rooster. "This man has forgotten that a person's value comes not from what they own, but from what they give. Not from their pride, but from their service. He will remain as he is until he learns." "For how long?" Obi asked, his voice shaking. "Until he performs 7 acts of genuine service to others. True service from the heart, not for boasting or praise." Allah turned to Ada. "And you, young wife, must prove that you married him for the right reasons. Will you care for him even now? Will you protect him when he is small and powerless?" Ada looked at the rooster pecking nervously at the ground. All her anger, all her hurt seemed to evaporate. What remained was something deeper, something that surprised even her. "He is still my husband," she said simply. Allah smiled, and for a moment she looked almost young. "Then perhaps there is hope for both of you. But know this, if he dies before completing the 7 acts, he will remain a rooster forever, even in death. And if he completes them but you have abandoned him, the transformation will not hold. You need each other." With that, the goddess vanished like smoke in the Harmattan wind, leaving behind only the faint scent of palm wine and earth. The Christmas Eve bells rang in the distance. Families were gathering for midnight prayers, but in Emeka's compound, 4 people and 1 rooster sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what had just happened. "We have to tell people," Obi finally said. "Tell them what?" Chioma laughed, but there was hysteria in it. "That our father is a chicken, they'll think we're mad." "We'll say he went to visit his brother in the next village," Ada said, her voice stronger now. "We'll manage until he learns whatever Allah wants him to learn." She approached the rooster carefully. Emeka backed away, pride still evident even in his bird body. But when Ada knelt and extended her hand, something in him softened. Slowly, cautiously, he stepped onto her palm. "I don't know if you can understand me," Ada whispered, "but I forgive you for everything, and I will help you become whole again." The rooster's eyes, still so human, still so full of Emeka's intelligence, filled with what might have been tears. That night, as the village celebrated Christmas with prayers and songs, Ada made a small nest in the corner of her room. She placed Emeka the rooster in it gently, covering him with a soft cloth. "Sleep, my husband," she said. "Tomorrow we begin." The first few days were chaos. Emeka kept trying to do human things, to open doors with his feet, to speak with his beak. He would crow frantically whenever someone entered the room, trying to communicate, to explain, but all that came out were chicken sounds. He also discovered the indignities of being a rooster. The compound's other chickens pecked at him, establishing dominance. The village dogs chased him when he wandered too far. And the children from neighbouring compounds, found endless amusement in a rooster who seemed to act almost human. "Catch it! Catch the proud chicken!" They would shout, throwing sticks and laughing. Ada intervened every time, shooing them away, but she couldn't always be there. Emeka learned quickly what it meant to be small, to be vulnerable, to need others. On the 3rd day after Christmas, the first opportunity came. Ada had left the compound gate open while carrying water. Nkem, playing near the road, wandered too far, following a butterfly. She didn't see the commercial motorcycle speeding around the corner, but Emeka the rooster did. Without thinking, operating purely on instinct and love for his daughter, he flew into the road, wings flapping, crowing with all his might. The sound was so unexpected, so loud, that the driver swerved and stopped just in time. Nikim ran back into the compound, shaken but safe. The rooster lay on the road, one wing bent at an odd angle. Ada heard the commotion and ran out. When she saw Emeka lying there, her heart stopped. She gathered him carefully, whispering prayers to Allah, to God, to any power that might be listening. That night, as she tended his broken wing, binding it with strips of cloth, the goddess appeared briefly at the window. One, Allah said simply, then vanished. One act of service. 6 more to go. The broken wing was a blessing and a curse. It kept Emeka close to the compound, unable to wander far. But it also made him even more vulnerable. He couldn't fly to escape danger, couldn't reach high places, had to rely entirely on his family, and they took care of him. Shioma made sure he always had the best grains. Obi built him a special roost, elevated and safe from predators. Nikem sang to him at night, the same lullabies their mother had sung to them as children. But it was Ada who transformed the most. She, who had been married to a man who barely saw her, now tended to every need of the rooster he had become. She fed him by hand, protected him from other animals, spoke to him constantly, telling him about her day, about the village gossip, about her hopes and fears. "I know you can hear me," she said one evening, a week after his transformation. "I know you understand, and I want you to know something. I didn't marry you for your wealth. My mother pushed me, yes. The village said I was lucky, yes. But I stayed because I saw glimpses of goodness in you. The way you smiled at your children when you thought no one was watching. The time you gave money to Mum and Ngozi when her husband was sick. You have good inside you, Emeka. You just buried it under so much pride." The rooster looked at her with those 2 human eyes, and if a chicken could weep, he would have. Still watching? Hit that subscribe button. We're just getting to the good part. The second act of service came unexpectedly. 2 weeks after his transformation, a snake entered the compound at night. Not just any snake, a black cobra, venomous and aggressive, drawn by the smell of eggs and the warmth of sleeping chickens. Emeka saw it first. His rooster instincts screamed at him to flee, to hide, to save himself. But his human mind saw the danger. The snake was heading toward the main house where his children slept. He began to crow. Not the normal morning crow, but a frantic, desperate alarm. The sound jerked Ada awake immediately. She rushed out, lamp in hand, just in time to see the rooster attacking the snake, using his spurs, his beak, anything he could, despite his still healing wing. Obi came running with a machete. Together with his stepmother, they killed the snake. But Emeka the rooster lay bleeding from a bite on his leg. "Stupid bird," Ada said, but her voice broke as she said it. Stupid, brave, wonderful bird. She treated the bite with herbs, sitting up all night to make sure the poison didn't spread. And again, Allah's voice whispered through the darkness. 2. The village began to notice strange things about Ada's household. The trader Emeka had disappeared, supposedly to the city for business. But his compound seemed more alive than ever. His children smiled more, Ada walked with her head higher, and there was a rooster that seemed almost human in its intelligence. "That chicken understands everything," Mazi Okoro commented one day, watching the rooster carefully avoid stepping on newly planted seedlings. "It's like it has a person's mind." "Don't be foolish," his wife said, but she too watched the rooster with curious eyes. The third act came in late January. The Harmattan winds had dried everything, and fire was a constant danger. One afternoon, as Ada and the children worked in the farm behind the compound, a cooking fire in a neighbour's house spread to the thatch roof. Emeka the rooster saw the smoke first. He flew onto the compound fence. His wing had healed enough for short flights, and began crowing with desperate urgency. But no one was around to hear. The compound was empty. So he did something that would have horrified the proud trader he once was. He ran through the village paths, stopping at every compound, crowing and flapping until people came out to see what was wrong. He led them like a feathered Pied Piper back to the burning house. The villagers managed to put out the fire before it spread to other homes. Lives and property were saved. And that night, as children told stories about the hero rooster who raised the alarm, Allah appeared again. 3, she said to Ada. He begins to understand that service requires setting aside pride. But understanding intellectually was different from feeling it in the bones, in the blood. Emeka still struggled with his new reality. He would catch his reflection in water buckets and recoil at the bird looking back. He would hear men talking in the market. Ada sometimes took him along, hidden in a basket, and want desperately to join the conversation, to offer his opinion, to be seen. The fourth act came from this very struggle. A new trader had moved into the market, a young man named Chidi with sharp eyes and sharper prices. He began undercutting the other traders, causing conflicts. The men couldn't agree on how to handle it, and their arguments grew heated. One market day, as tensions rose to near violence, Emeka the rooster escaped from Ada's basket. He flew onto the central table where the men were arguing and began to act out something. Using his beak, he pushed coins around, demonstrating how if the traders worked together, setting fair prices collectively, everyone would benefit more than in a price war. It took a while for the men to understand. Mazi Okoro was the first to get it. The rooster, it's showing us cooperation. Don't be mad, another trader said, but he looked at the pattern of coins the rooster had arranged. Slowly, amazingly, the men began to discuss the idea. By evening, they had agreed on a cooperative strategy. Peace returned to the market. Allah's voice came that night. 4. He learns that wisdom shared is more valuable than wisdom hoarded. As February arrived, Emeka had been a rooster for over a month. His human memories remained sharp, but he was also becoming genuinely chicken-like in some ways. He understood the social structure of the compound's other birds. He knew which hens were kindest, which roosters most aggressive. He had learned patience, learned humility, learned what it meant to be at the mercy of forces larger than himself. And he was learning something else too. He was learning about his family. He watched Chioma wake every morning at dawn, preparing breakfast before heading to her apprenticeship with the village seamstress. He saw Obi secretly using money meant for himself to repair the compound's aging fence. He observed Nkem helping Ida with chores without being asked, her young face serious with responsibility. Most of all, he saw Ada. Really saw her, perhaps for the first time. The strength it took to run a household alone. The grace with which she handled the village's questions about his absence. The love in her hands when she tended to him each night, checking his feathers, ensuring he had eaten enough. He had been blind. So impossibly blind. The fifth act came from this new sight. A young widow in the village, Mama Ogechi, was struggling to care for her 3 small children. Her late husband had been a fisherman, and she had no trade of her own. The compound whispered about her troubles, but no one seemed to act. Emeka the rooster began stealing. Every day he would take small amounts of grain from their compound and carry it in his beak to Mama Ogechi's house, leaving it by her door. At first she was confused, but as the pattern continued, she began to understand. The strange, intelligent rooster was helping her. Word spread. Shamed by a chicken's generosity, other families began contributing too. Mama Ogechi was... Most of all, he saw Ada. Really saw her, perhaps for the first time. The strength it took to run a household alone. The grace with which she handled the village's questions about his absence. The love in her hands when she tended to him each night, checking his feathers, ensuring he had eaten enough. He had been blind. So impossibly blind. The fifth act came from this new sight. A young widow in the village, Mama Ogechi, was struggling to care for her 3 small children. Her late husband had been a fisherman, and she had no trade of her own. The compound whispered about her troubles, but no one seemed to act. Emeka the rooster began stealing. Every day he would take small amounts of grain from their compound and carry it in his beak to Mama Ogechi's house, leaving it by her door. At first she was confused, but as the pattern continued, she began to understand. The strange, intelligent rooster was helping her. Word spread. Shamed by a chicken's generosity, other families began contributing too. Mama Ogechi was connected to a cooperative that taught her basket weaving. Within weeks, she had a new livelihood. 5, Allah whispered. He learns that true giving requires no recognition. March brought the first rains, breaking the harmattan's dry grip. The compound came alive with green shoots and renewed energy. Emeka the rooster's feathers had grown full and glossy. His wing had healed completely. He was, by any measure, a magnificent bird, but the magnificence came without pride now. It simply was. The sixth act emerged from the children's conflict. Obi and Chioma had begun arguing about their father. Obi wanted to believe he would return, transformed back. Chioma had grown bitter, saying that even if he did return, nothing would change. "He'll just go back to his old ways," she said one evening, as Emeka the rooster listened from his roost. "Men like him don't change." "But what if he does?" Obi argued. "What if this, whatever this is, has taught him something? Taught him what? To be a better rooster?" Their argument escalated. Words were said that couldn't be unsaid. Obi stormed out into the rainy night. Chioma retreated to her room, crying. Emeka the rooster found himself moving without thinking. He flew to Chioma's window and began to crow softly, a sound almost like a lullaby. When she looked up, tears streaming down her face, he did something he had never done before. He bowed his head low, a gesture of complete submission and apology. "Papa?" Chioma whispered, because somehow she knew. Perhaps she had always known. The rooster nodded, as clearly as a bird could nod. Chioma opened the window. Emeka flew to her shoulder, the way he used to carry her when she was small and he was human. And though he couldn't speak, she heard everything he needed to say in the warmth of his feathers against her cheek. Later she went to Obi and they reconciled. The family wound healed. 6, Allah said. He learns that reconciliation requires vulnerability. One act remained, one final service that would complete his transformation. But as April arrived, marking 3 months since Christmas Eve, nothing seemed to present itself. Emeka the rooster began to worry. What if he never found the 7th opportunity? What if he remained a bird forever? The answer came on Easter Sunday. The village was preparing for a celebration, but Ada's compound was quiet. Nkem had fallen sick with a fever that wouldn't break. The village medicine man had tried everything. Modern medicine from the town clinic had failed. The girl lay weak and fading, her breathing shallow. Emeka the rooster sat by her bedside, his heart breaking. This was his baby, his youngest child, and he was powerless, stuck in this useless body, unable to help. Or was he? He remembered something. Years ago, his mother had told him about a plant that grew deep in the forest near the old Iroko tree. A plant with leaves that could break any fever, but it grew in a dangerous place, guarded by wild animals, difficult to find. As a man, he would never have risked himself. His pride would have stopped him. But as a rooster with nothing left to lose except the daughter he loved, the choice was simple. He flew out the window. Ada discovered him gone and panicked. She searched the compound, calling for him, but he was already far away, flying through the forest with a determination that defied his small body. The journey nearly killed him. Hawks attacked him twice. He had to hide from a wildcat. The forest was dark and disorienting, and he was just a chicken after all. But love drove him forward. He found the Iroko tree at dusk, and there, in its shadow, the plant his mother had described. Using his beak, he pulled leaves from the plant. They were bitter, making his mouth burn, but he gathered as many as he could carry. The journey back was harder. He was exhausted, the leaves were heavy, and night had fallen completely. Predators hunted in the darkness. More than once he barely escaped death, but he kept flying, kept moving, because Nkem needed him. He arrived at the compound in the dead of night, more falling than flying. He dropped the leaves at Ada's feet as she sat keeping vigil over Nkem. "The rooster!" She picked up the leaves, recognizing them immediately. "These are, how did you know?" She quickly prepared them, brewing a strong tea. She poured it drop by drop into Nkem's mouth. Then they waited. An hour passed. 2. Then, just before dawn, Nkem's fever broke. Colour returned to her cheeks. Her breathing steadied. She opened her eyes. "Papa?" she said, her voice weak but clear. "Papa came back?" Ada looked at the rooster collapsed in the corner, his chest heaving, his feathers torn and muddy from the journey. "Yes," she whispered, "your papa came back." And this time, Allah didn't just speak. She appeared, fully formed, her divine radiance filling the small room. The 3 children gasped. Ada bowed her head. 7, the goddess said. He has learned the final lesson, that true service may cost everything, and the willingness to pay that price is what defines a person's worth. She bent down to the exhausted rooster. "Emeka, proud trader of Umuora, do you understand now? Your value was never in your wealth or your words. It was always in what you gave, in what you sacrificed, in how you served those who needed you." The rooster lifted his head and bowed it again, lower than before. "Yes, He understood. And you, Ada, daughter of patience, you proved that you married not for gain but for love. You cared for him when he could give you nothing but trouble. You protected him when he was small and powerless. You kept faith when faith seemed foolish. Allah touched them both, the rooster and the woman. Light filled the room, bright as noon sun, warm as a mother's embrace. When it faded, Emeka stood there. Not the Emeka who had been transformed 3 months ago, but someone new, someone humbled, someone whole. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Nkem jumped from her mat, fever completely gone, and threw herself into her father's arms. Obi and Chioma followed, all of them crying, laughing, holding on as if they would never let go. Ada stood apart, suddenly shy. Emeka looked at her over his children's heads. Their eyes met. "I'm sorry," he said. Simple words, but they carried the weight of 3 months of transformation. For everything. For not seeing you. For not seeing them. For being so blind to what mattered. Ada's eyes filled with tears. "You came back. I never left." He gently extracted himself from his children and walked to her. "Even as a rooster, even when I couldn't speak, I was always here. But I wasn't really here before, was I? Not when it mattered." She shook her head, unable to speak. "You cared for me when I was nothing," Emeka continued, his voice breaking. "When I couldn't give you status or wealth or any of the things I thought made me valuable. You fed me by hand, protected me, spoke to me like I still mattered. Why?" "Because you're my husband," Ada said simply. "And because beneath all that pride I always believed there was someone worth loving." Emeka pulled her close, and this time when he held her, it wasn't for show. Wasn't for anyone's eyes but hers. It was real. Allah watched them with satisfaction, but her expression grew serious. "The transformation is complete, but hear me well. The lessons you learned as a rooster must stay with you as a man. If you return to your old ways, if pride overtakes humility, if boasting replaces service, the change will come again, and next time it may be permanent." "I understand," Emeka said, and meant it with every fibre of his being. The goddess turned to leave, but Nkem called out, "Will we see you again?" Allah smiled, and in that smile was the warmth of earth after rain, the comfort of harvest after planting. "I am always here, child, in the ground you walk on, in the food you eat, in the love that binds families together. You see me every day, if you know where to look." She vanished like morning mist, leaving behind only the faint scent of palm wine and something else, something like hope. Later that morning, as Easter Sunday dawn broke over Umwara village, the family sat together in their compound. Nkem, fully recovered, leaned against her father's side. Obi and Chioma sat close, still unable to believe he was truly back. Ada watched them all with a peace she hadn't felt in years. "I was wrong," Emeka said quietly, "about everything. I thought my worth came from what I owned, from what people said about me. I thought being a good husband meant providing things. Being a good father meant giving money." He looked at each of them in turn. "I didn't understand that the greatest gift I could give was myself, my time, my service, my humility." "You understand now," Ada said softly. "Yes." Emeka smiled, and it was a different smile than before, quieter, real. "I had to lose everything to find what truly mattered. I had to become small to understand what it means to be great." From somewhere in the compound a rooster crowed, welcoming the Easter morning. Emeka listened to it and understood, finally, the language of humility it spoke. The village would talk about his return for years to come, weaving their own stories about where he had gone and what had changed him. But only his family knew the truth. Only they understood that sometimes the proudest among us must fall the farthest to learn how to truly rise. And in the years that followed, when people spoke of Emeka, they no longer called him the proud trader. They called him the humble man, the one who served, the one who loved well. Because in the end, that was all that mattered. A proud peacock makes noise, but a humble hen feeds the village. If you enjoy African folktales like this, please subscribe now so you do not miss the next story.